Another role of the president is the one where he gets to travel around to other countries and meet their heads of state and try to make peace or deals, alliances with those countries. So here we see President Obama in Japan. This was one of the first things he did as president, and he was heavily criticized here for bowing or kowtowing, as it were, to the Prime Minister of Japan. Many people look to the founding fathers who did not believe in bowing. They thought it royalty and submitting to royalty, and that's not what Americans do. We shake hands. President Obama felt rather that it's the custom in Japan, therefore he was just being customary. So this is obviously something that is hotly contested, but it certainly is the job of the president to do his best to find favor with the leaders of other countries. Perhaps the most important role of the president is commander-in-chief. And if we look to the first president, George Washington, he was obviously a military leader. He was very renowned and beloved as a military leader and hero. And so it was more natural, I think, for the people to see him as the leader of the military. We've had other military leaders that have become our president over the years. You remember Eisenhower and obviously from World War II. Recently, we've seen a trend in presidents that don't have as much military experience. President Obama obviously does not, and President Bush has very minimal, and he's actually criticized for pictures like this where he would go onto aircraft carriers in his military gear acting like he's a soldier, and folks said, hey, you've only served a little bit of time in the National Guard, that doesn't really count, etc. So this is still a hotly debated issue. Should we have a civilian leading the military? Well, the argument in favor of that is it's another check on power. If you imagine someone who is the leader of a military who has been in the military his whole life, who is maybe a little more hawkish or has a little bit more of a desire to see military conflicts resolved with American force as opposed to diplomacy, then we have a whole other direction that our country will be taken. So perhaps it's good that we have a more civilian leader who's actually leading the military. The president's also the person ultimately responsible for the economy, and this can be tricky because with economics, as we'll see next semester, there seems to be kind of an upward-downward trend, almost like a roller coaster. The economy on its own will go up and it will go down. There will be times of boom and times of bust. And so what if you're a president that comes into office at a time when things are on the up and up, like President Clinton, where we're having the tech boom? Well, the economy's great, and he kind of gets credit for that. And he may have had some influence, but certainly he doesn't have as much control as people think. On the other end, we have President Obama coming into office when the economy is terrible and going downward fast, and then he's expected to cure it all. Well, he's one man and he's got only so much power, and there's only so much you can do to tame the economy. In order to become president, you have to belong to a party. That party does quite a bit to help you get elected. So it makes sense that after you are elected that you owe that party something. You're going to be the leader of the party. You're going to try to act in the best interest of the party. And if you're the president and you're a Democrat, you're hoping that the majority of Congress is also Democrat in each house, so that you can work together with them to get legislation passed that's favorable to your constituency, so you be the hero of the party. There are things that you can do as the party leader if you do not have a majority in Congress, and certainly the president has some leeway. He's still seen and respected and regarded very highly by Republicans and Democrats, no matter what his party. And he also has tools he can use, such as inviting them to the White House and having them fly with him on Air Force One and going golfing with them and making public appearances. No one was better at this, of course, than Lyndon Johnson, who was able to be real buddy-buddy with the different congressmen and convince them to vote one way or the other, despite what their party might have thought. And so this is a real key power and talent that a president should possess. An ideal situation for a president as they are elected is to have members of Congress of his party be elected at the same time, to such a degree that it gives him a majority of Democrats or Republicans, whatever his party is, in the House and the Senate. This is known as the coattail effect because you can imagine if a Democrat wins, then many people doing straight ticket voting would also vote Democrat for congressional offices, and this gives him the opportunity to really get things done his way. Here we can look at the trend of the coattail effect. Different presidents, and as they are elected, the number of members of their own party that sweep the House or the Senate, or you can also see at times that there are cases where they lose those seats in the House and the Senate, such as George Bush in 1988, makes it harder to rule. Bill Clinton, his first term, he had to deal with some deadlock, which is why he didn't pass his healthcare law. And of course, the big wave of Democrats that swept the Capitol in 2008 with Obama. He had a pretty good time for 2 years, the first 2 years of his first term, ruling with those folks. Of course, the president also has to deal with midterm elections. Since his term as president is 4 years, and the Congress has elections every 2 years, somewhere during his presidency he's going to have to hope that the new election brings in the same amount or more of his party members. For President Obama, this was not the case in 2010. It doesn't show the data here because this is older, but he actually lost 65 members of the House to the Republicans and 6 members of the Senate. He barely maintained control of the Senate, but the Republicans controlled the House, and that is why he's lucky he got his healthcare law passed in the first 2 years, and he's had a hard time legislating ever since then. Now the last role we want to talk about is less official. Historically, we didn't always see the president as a crisis manager, particularly when there's natural disasters around the country. It used to be that people just accept a hurricane's going to hit or another earthquake's going to happen. But recently, we expect the president to get into Air Force One or his helicopter and fly over to the crisis scene. And really all he can do there is offer moral support, and it certainly offers the president as well some opportunities to look good in front of the cameras. You remember President Bush after 9/11, President Obama recently after the Hurricane Sandy in the East Coast. Lucky for him, it happened right before the election. Not to say that he wasn't going to win anyway, but it certainly didn't hurt. But we do kind of expect the president to use some magical powers that he has to get us out of big problems. And of course, presidents don't have the power to stop hurricanes. And that kind of brings us to the end of our discussion, and maybe leave with this thought, that we put so much emphasis on the president as the determining factor to whether our lives are great or not. Let's not forget that he's one of the many leaders and factors that determines the success or failure of our country. We the people have a voice. There's the legislature, there's the courts, there's federalism, which gives us states and localities that also make laws and are supposed to deal with the problems in our lives. And then there's personal responsibility. So let's try not to pin it all on the president.